Hi, my name is Emily Villella, and today I'm going to tell you a personal experience speech about my father. The day was August 20th, 2009. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 16 years old, and my life took a standstill. I thought I was never going to see him again. My dad is my hero. My dad is my world. He's my best friend. And that day I thought I was going to lose him forever. I thought I was going to lose my life. I was hanging out with a friend, and we were looking for jobs. It was almost the beginning of school, trying to, I was going to be a junior, big important year for me. I called my mom and said, "Mom, I almost got a job." She was very proud, but I could tell in her voice something was completely off and something was wrong. I didn't pry. I didn't ask what was wrong. I was just like, "Okay, Mom, I'll see you when you get home from work and we'll talk more." And I was thinking in the back of my head, how could she have a bad day? We just got back from a family vacation in Cooperstown. We watched my brother play baseball, and my dad was coaching. So I was like, okay, she's probably caught up at work with all paperwork and stuff. So I was walking around my hometown, looking for a job still. I get home. I sit down, reading the paper, goofing off with my friends still. And my mom walks through the door. And immediately, I could tell something was off. I felt in the back of my head, bad day at work. I look at her. She starts crying. And I said, "Mom, was it that bad of a day at work?" She says, "Emily, sit down." And I knew when she told me to sit down, something was wrong because she never tells me to sit down. She goes, "It's your father." And I said, "What about Daddy? He's in Cooperstown with Danny coaching baseball." She goes, "He's in the hospital." At that moment, I said, "What are you talking about? He can't be in the hospital. We just saw him yesterday and he was fine." She goes, "No, he went to congestive heart failure." At that moment, my heart stopped. My mom starts crying, and I just held her. And I didn't cry because I knew I had to be strong for my mother. Immediately, my family friends show up at my house. They run through the door, and they look at me and go, "Pack a bag now." And I said, "Where am I going?" They're like, "You're staying with me, and we're booking your mom on a flight to Albany so she can be with your father." I said, "No, I have to go. I have to go with her." And they're like, "You can't go. You can't go." So I said, "Okay." I pack a bag. I pack my mom's stuff. I grabbed my mom's credit card, and I said, "Here, go book a flight." And I just remember running around the house, answering phone calls because word got out that my dad was in the hospital. And I was explaining to them, "My mom's on a flight. I'll be here. I'll be home." So later, a few hours later, my family friends pick us back up. We drop my mom off at JFK. She's still a mess crying. I haven't cried once because I know I have to be strong for my little brother and my mom. So at that moment, I said, "Goodbye, Mom. Tell Daddy I love him, just in case." And she said, "Okay." She gets to Albany, and my dad's a cop, so a former cop of his who lives in Albany drove my mom to Cooperstown. At that moment, I said, "I don't know what's going on." She goes, "Keep your cell phone on. We'll keep you with any updates." Kept my cell phone on the whole night. Couldn't really sleep at all that well. And I get back to my family friend's house, and my best friend who was there was trying to calm me down, and I wasn't crying. Everybody else was crying. I had to tell my grandma what was going on. And my grandmother, who has Parkinson's and is very old, I had to explain to her about my father. So I told her what was going on, and she starts crying. She's a mess. I'm trying to calm her down as well. And I just remember getting phone calls after phone calls after phone calls about what was going on with my dad. And at that point, I was like, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to, pull through. My brother kept calling me every night crying, and at that time, he was 13. A day later, I get a phone call. I didn't get the phone call, actually. My mom's friend who I was staying with got the call and said, "Mark has 6 months to live." I still wasn't crying at that point. I was like, I'm going to be strong because I know my dad's the strongest man in the whole entire world, and I know he could pull through anything. So later that day, I'm still getting phone calls. I had to take care of my grandma. I had to go grocery shopping for her. And I go to her house. She's a mess. Everyone's a mess. And I just, in the back of my mind, stay strong, stay strong, stay strong. So they said he had 6 months to live in front of my little brother. And my dad and brother are really close. My whole entire family, we're a very close-knit family. We do everything together. And he called me later that night, bawling his eyes out. And I said to them, you have to get him home. You need to get him home. So they got him back to Long Island, St. Francis Hospital, which is one of the best heart hospitals on the island. And they basically saved his life. Congestive heart failure, it's a scary thing to go through. And they got him back. They got him on medication, and he's doing okay now. But in the back of my mind, that whole entire time, I'm going to lose my dad. I'm going to lose my best friend. I'm going to lose my world. And the second I saw him, I ran into the room, and I just jumped on him, and I, hugged him. I still didn't cry, and I knew I couldn't because I had to be strong. And ever since that day, I grew up, and now I'm more responsible because of the whole thing. At that time in my life, I was very irresponsible. I had no direction of life. I didn't know where I was going. But after that whole thing, I grew up, and I just now know I have to live my life, and I have to be there for my family always. And to this day, my family is 100% closer, even though we were close before this whole thing happened. It was just a wake-up call for me to grow up, be mature, and realize that life is a lot more than just goofing off with your friends. And ever since that day, I just make my parents proud now, and I do what I can. And I tell my parents every day I love them, even if I'm mad at them. And no matter what, I know my dad's always going to be there, and he's the strongest man in the whole entire world, and I love him dearly. And if I ever lost him, I don't know what I would do with myself. He's my best friend, and I tell him everything. And I just love him dearly. And I hope that everyone, at the end of the night, end of the day, no matter what happens, you always say you love your parents because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Thank you.